Well, I think we should start. I've got my lovely glamorous assistants, Michelle and Ruby, letting people in. So do keep letting people in, Michelle and Ruby, because they're coming as I speak. It's lovely to see you. I'm Jasmine Birtles, and I'm just going to adjust my camera here. I'm Jasmine Birtles, founder of MoneyMagpie.com. Great to have you on this webinar, which is all about making tax digital, or MTD as we in the know call it, making tax digital. I had to ask when it was said before. So making tax digital is coming in April this year, at least for some people. And then some other people will be brought into the net next year and more the year after. And it's a new project. It's a big project that HMRC has brought out, and it's going to affect a lot of accountants, bookkeepers, landlords, small businesses, freelancers. So if you're in any of those categories, well done. You're going to be learning here. And do remember that you can ask any questions here, any questions that you want. You can just put them in the chat box and we will be answering them. Now, Nick
Go down to the
Verhosey,
right-hand side. Move your finger up first,
sorry,
hold.
Edward, if you could, yes, we'll close people's voices down. Thank you. Um, Anybody who wants to put a question in, just put it in the
Is
chat
anything,
box. You know,
what,
there's the chat function
anything's
below.
happening?
If you could switch off your microphone when you join, that would be great. Thank you. And Nick Verhosey, Nick, would you wave at
That's
us?
very quiet.
Say hello, Nick. Thank you.
Well, it's on 100%.
Hi,
Satish
everyone.
Trivedi, hello.
Hello.
Michelle, could you close down the microphones of anybody who's got their microphone open? Thank you so much. Um, so anybody who's got a question, put it in the chat box. Nick Verhosey from
Oh,
HMRC,
you
thank
have
you
it.
for
Oh,
waving. Edward, now we need to close down Edward.
because
Purchases
you're the one that needs
microphone.
to know. Can you hear
Um,
it enough?
Michelle,
Yeah.
can you
Okay.
switch off Edward Purchase? Make sure that all the microphones are switched off, please. Apart from Lenny and me and Tom and Nick. So those are the only ones that should have the microphones on. Thank you very much. That's great. So just put the questions in the chat box. Nick is going to answer them, and also Lenny and Tom will be answering them verbally. So ask any questions you like, and a lot of people will have the same questions, I'm sure. So don't think there are no stupid questions in these webinars. Be as obvious as you like, be as stupid questions as you like, not a problem, because particularly Lenny and Nick are very used to answering questions from all sorts of people. So just want to introduce firstly, from our expert panel, we have Lenny Barry, who's from HMRC. I was going to say HSBC there, HMRC. Lenny, can you say hello to everybody?
Hello, I've often been called a banker, but I actually work for HMRC. I work
HMRC.
on the Making Tax Digital program. I've been on the program for 8 years, so I've been through MTD for VAT. I've been through the ups and downs and trials and tribulations of MTD for income tax, but I'm here to reassure you that MTD for income tax will go live on the 6th of April 2026. We are good to go. And as Jasmine said, we're here to help you. We're here to answer any questions, anything you're not clear about, anything you're unsure about. And I would reiterate, there's no stupid questions. We did a webinar yesterday with another organization. There was 800 people on. We had over
Wow.
300 questions. And probably we got the same question 10 times. But it's important that people who will be impacted by making tax digital understand what they need to do. And that's why it's a golden opportunity. Please put your questions in the chat. Keep Nick busy because he doesn't like to be idle. But certainly, Tom and I will answer the questions verbally.
Great.
Sometimes that's a lot easier than a straightforward yes or no written answer.
True. Thank you. Well, that's lovely. Thank you so much, Lenny. And Lenny is the man. Lenny and Nick know everything there is to know about MTD, which is great. And another man who knows everything there is to know is Tom Bateman from AbraTax, which is sponsoring this session. So we have a big thank you for Tom. Tom, tell us a bit about AbraTax.
Sure. Hi there, everybody. So, yeah, I'm Tom, CEO of AbraTax, and we are a software developer. We're a software vendor. So, we have made a solution for making tax digital for income tax. And that solution centers around using spreadsheets so that you can continue to use them and make compliant submissions to HMRC. So, I am going to show you the digital records in spreadsheet form. I've got an example of those, and I'll take you through how to use the AbraTax software to sign up, register, connect yourself to it, and make a submission. We also have a product for agents as well. So I think we're going to focus on perhaps a self-employment and landlord example, but
Yeah.
we've also got a product for agents. So if you've got multiple clients, for example, we can help you with spreadsheets as well.
Well, I'm glad to see that we do already have some questions come up. So we will move to those in a moment. I'll just start things off. Just Lenny, if you could give us a potted version, a quick version of what making tax digital is and why it is, please, because I think that's what a lot of us are going, why? Why have we got to do this? And what is it that we've got to do? So if you could give us a brief overview, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, sure. You've only got an hour. Making tax digital. In simplistic terms, it's the new way of doing your self-assessment tax returns if you are self-employed or a landlord and you meet one of the qualifying income thresholds to be in Making Tax Digital. So, Making Tax Digital has basically got three key components. So you will need to use compatible software, MTD for income tax compatible software, like AbraTax, like some other brands as well. You will need to keep digital records for your business income and expenses. So if you're a landlord, if you're self-employed, you may be putting things in a ledger. You might be keeping receipts, putting them in a bag, taking them to your accountant once a year. That's fine, but that'll have to change in this so far as it'll need to be a digital record. So what's a digital record? So obviously, a paper receipt, a paper invoice wouldn't be digital. However, if that invoice was created in a spreadsheet or in a word processor package, it would be digital, provided it could be exported to your software. Some software will offer you the opportunity to take pictures or to scan those paper documents, and they will then convert them and they will take them into your digital records in the software. So, one of the key decisions that taxpayers will have to make is what software do I want? So, one of the key questions is what do you want it to do? Do you want the software to keep your digital records so you can store them in the software? You can create them in the software. You can scan them in. You can have records in a spreadsheet and import it into the software. Absolutely fine. But will you also want that software to do your tax return? So you will not be doing the tax return the way you do it now anymore. If you're in Making Tax Digital, everything will be done in compatible software. So the tax return will be compiled and completed and submitted through compatible software.
Okay, and that's
Lots of
where
people.
AbraTax comes through, I assume. You know, if you want, you get your software and you use AbraTax to get onto HMRC and upload it. Am I right in saying that? Or can you do it without an intermediary?
So
So go on, Tom.
No, well, Abratax is one of several vendors. We are bridging software. So, I mean, there are two types of software broadly, in fairness. So you've got full record keeping software, which can connect directly into your bank account. They tend to be more fully featured and more expensive. And you have bridging software. So our software lets you maintain your existing processes in spreadsheets. You might already have a set of digital records that you've been keeping for years and you've finessed them and you're very happy with your processes and you don't want to pay for a more expensive package or learn a new package and you want to carry on using your spreadsheets. Our software lets you connect into your accounts that are kept in an existing way and submit them in that form.
Because I know, Lenny, you've mentioned Excel spreadsheets, because when I think of digital tax keeping, record keeping, I'm thinking of all sorts of, QuickBooks and Sage and all those clever ones. But you've actually mentioned to me that Excel spreadsheets are as good as anything.
Yeah, so when we made VAT digital, so we did MTD for VAT, we were quite clear that lots of small businesses, small VAT registered businesses, used spreadsheets for their accounting, used spreadsheets for creating their invoices. So we weren't going to disrupt that, and we accepted that spreadsheets would be acceptable software. However, there's a slight complication insofar as a spreadsheet on its own is unlikely to be able to submit into HMRC because IT terms, we're using an API, an application programming interface, which is basically just software that joins things together. And spreadsheets don't have that capability. So Excel doesn't have that capability to do that on its own. So a bridging product
Would,
like Abratax
yeah,
will connect to your spreadsheet. You'll bring it in and they will extract the information that's required and they will be able to send it to HMRC. So if you're a spreadsheet user, fear not, you can continue to do that and you just need a bridging product to be able to send the quarterly update. So one of the third change for making tax digital is that once you're keeping records in digital records in software, including spreadsheets, you need to submit a quarterly update to HMRC. It's not a tax return. It is simply the summary totals of your income and expenditure by category. By category, I mean the categories that you use in self-assessment just now, such as rent, rate, utilities, motor vehicle expenses. And if you're categorizing them, the software will add up the appropriate totals, present it to you to say, hello, Jasmine, this is what you've told me. This is what I've got. This is what it looks like. Do you want to send it to HMRC? And you might have a quick look and go, yep, that's fine. Off it goes. And
right.
that will go through your bridging software and come into us job done.
Great. Well, now listen, Lenny, I'm going to start with some of the questions because we've got some really good ones here. Firstly, from Susan, she says, hi, my current self-employed income doesn't meet the threshold, but my other income does. What do I do? Firstly, could you remind us what the thresholds are for April 2026?
So for April 2026, taxpayers with a combined income from self-employment and property above £50,000 will come into Making Tax Digital. In 27, it's those above £30,000, and in 28, it's those above £20,000. Now, Susan saying my self-employment doesn't meet the threshold for 2026. That's absolutely fine. She wouldn't be coming in. However, I would say self-employment. Does Susan have any rental income? And she mentioned other income, so I'm not sure what the other income is. But I'd be clear to say that if Susan has a PAYE job, she's got another job as an employee. PAYE is not considered for Making Tax Digital. It's not a qualifying income. The qualifying incomes are only those incomes coming from self-employment and from property. PAYE will continue. Your employer will take it from you and send it to us, hopefully, and then that'll be it done.
Lovely. So Alice wants to know, with MTD, will the self-assessment form change? Good question. Yeah.
So the self-assessment form should remain fundamentally the same. However, there are probably 40, 50 software products. They may have minor tweaks in coloring, in font, and whatever else, but essentially we've told them the self-assessment form now has to be replicated online. It has to be the same as what we need. It's an HMRC form. The software developers are approved to provide an electronic copy for people to complete, so people will be very familiar with what they see in their software.
Yeah, I might add to that actually. We
Yes.
that's certainly been our experience has been that we provide the self-assessment form. It's a free product actually on our website today, and people really value the familiarity of the paper-based form even. So we've followed that concept as much as possible. And that's when, as we build out the MTD version, we're talking now about the end of year functionality, aren't we? Because there's two parts, of course. You've got the quarterly returns, and then you've got the end of year final declaration that happens at the end of all of those quarters. And that form we endeavor to make it as familiar as possible to the existing self-assessment form.
Good. Yes, no, good. I agree because it's familiarity that really helps. When you see a totally different format, it might have the same elements in it, but it really puts you off. So yes, I'm glad you're not changing everything all in one go. That would make it much harder. Grant says, does MTD apply to income from savings, interest, dividends, income, or CGT, or is it just for the self-employed and landlords?
So the qualifying income is only from self-employment and income from property rental. So the qualifying income defines whether or not you come into MTD. So you're 50,000, 30,000, or 20,000. If your combined income meets that, then you would come in at the appropriate time. If you come into Making Tax Digital, all those other things that Grant mentioned, pensions, dividends, bank interest, etc., will still be required to be accounted for in the tax return, as is the case now. The difference would be that the tax return will be done in compatible software. Rather than doing it through the government gateway, it'll be coming in through compatible software. So you'll still account for pension, dividends, etc., in your tax return, but you'll be doing everything in MTD compatible software.
Great. Now, Grant says, I've read the HMRC software can't cope with the mid-year changes to CGT. How will this be handled?
So capital gains tax is different to Making Tax Digital. It's a separate standalone tax, as is VAT, as is PAYE. So we don't run the CGT system. We run the MTD system, and we have no problems dealing with what is required in Making Tax Digital.
Great. And as Sharon says, is there a free software package you recommend to do this? A free one?
So that's a two-part question. The first part, is there free software? Software is available at a range of price points, including free. It's also available with a range of functionality. So AbraTax is a bridging product, that's quite clear, but there are other products that will do bridging and will do the tax return and will do whatever else. But it's a case of choosing the functionality that you require. And if you go to the gov.uk website, there is a software choices page. I think we've got 50 products on there just now. So you can go onto gov.uk, type in compatible software for MTD for income tax, and a list of products will come, and you can filter and search. So if you want something that will deal with spreadsheets, it'll come up with spreadsheets. If you want something that is free, it'll give you the options that are free. If you want a paid version, it'll show you the paid versions and the functionality. The second part of the question, do we recommend? No, we cannot recommend a product. We have to be absolutely fair to the software developers. And if we were to say use blogs as software, I know there isn't a blogs as software. If we were to say use blogs software, they would get a huge boost, and
Yeah.
competitors like Abritax wouldn't be getting a fair crack of the whip. So we simply say, look at it, make your own choice, ask questions of the developers. I'm sure they're all happy to give you a demonstration of their wares because they want to sell their products.
Of
And
course.
and again, products range from free, from a few pounds per month, to 7, 10, 15, 20 pounds a month. You get what you're paying for. But if you don't need something to give you financial forecasting, if you don't need something to do your invoicing or chase your debts, you don't need to have it. You choose what's right for you.
Well, I
Shall I
think this is
also,
yes, this is a
shall
good
I also
time to
say,
bring you in, Tom.
yes.
Because Tom, you have a free version and a paid for version, don't you? And you do various different things, as you've mentioned.
Yes, so I mean, at the moment, our product is free, and I would encourage people to go and try it because you need to join the. I would join the pilot scheme because from April there is going to be a number approaching 1 million people. I think it's about 860,000. Is that right, Lenny?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that are going to be joining the program, and you have to expect with any technical project there's going to be teething problems for everybody. Getting yourself set up. So I would recommend getting on the pilot scheme, giving our software a go, and all we ask for is that you give us feedback. So we've built this product for free right now. We're evaluating business models. I think from April we are looking at a business model that will be something like a couple of pounds a month is what we're expecting, and there'll be a final declaration as well, which will be a small additional charge later. That won't be needed until the end of the tax year, so that'll be April 2027. So if you like, I can give you a demo.
Yes, do.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at it now because I think it's useful for people to see the sort of thing because obviously, we do know there are other ones and there are going to be similar look. So it'd be good to see how Abritax works.
Yeah, sure. Well, I will start at the beginning with I think with the digital records, because I think that's where MTD is centered really. It's all about, as Lenny mentioned earlier, keeping those digital records. And like I said before, you might already have a spreadsheet that you're very happy with. You've got your accounts in there and you've been using them for years. The on our VAT product, that's certainly the case. We find that it's also a bridging software and people don't want to learn another package. So if that's you, we can help you. The other case is where people haven't got any digital records yet and they need to start creating them. So what I've put together here is just a very minimal, the absolute minimum, I think, that you could get away with. So for a tax year, we have got a set of transactions, and this happens to be a gardening business example. So you've got the date of a transaction, a short description, and then you categorize it according to if it's an income or an expense. And this bit's slightly nuanced. If you are above the people that are used to doing self-assessment and self-employment will know that if you are below the VAT threshold, you can submit consolidated expenses. If you're above, you need to break it down into other categories. So if you're above the VAT threshold, you can categorize it according to this as well. There you have the amount. And of course, for MTD, you need to be making quarterly submissions of those numbers. And the other element of MTD as well is that those quarterly submissions are cumulative. So when you report your, is that big enough, by the way, for everybody? You can see those numbers?
I think so, yes. You can just about see it. If anybody,
Yeah.
yes.
I've got a split screen here because we're going to go over to the software in a minute.
Yeah.
So when you're reporting for a quarter, you must also include the income from the previous quarter. So in Q3, which is where we are now, you're including the quarters 1 and 2, along with the income in quarter 3. And of course, by the time you get to the end of the final quarter, you've got your whole annual income, and the same with expenses. So there's a formula that I've created there. This is a very simple template which we can publish on our site if people find it useful. Then we head over to the software. So we now need to connect to HMRC. And when you sign up for an account, this will be empty for you. I've got a couple of examples already loaded. I will go through connecting your tax account to AbraTax. So first thing you do is you add a new ITSA registration, and helpfully HMRC provide their testing servers, provide some credentials for us. So I'm going to grab some of those. I will take the national insurance number. And like I say, this is the testing site. So some of the data that you're going to see is made up, and it's not realistic data. It's just test data that's come directly from the HMRC servers. And we're now connected to AbraTax, or we've entered our details into AbraTax, but we've not authorized AbraTax to act on your behalf. So now we need to grant access, and we'll go over to HMRC. And the nice thing about this as well, now this is a very modern security standard. We don't get to see your username and password at any point. This is all happening on the HMRC servers. If you look at the URL, it's a gov.uk site. So
that's a good point, though. It does mean that if one's going to have bridging software, you need to be very clear that it is pucker. It's not some dodgy software. You need to. So another, just it's good to check that whatever software you use is genuine.
And then what's going to happen here now is you've been presented with your obligations. And again, this is test data coming from HMRC servers. So there is a part which it'd be difficult to show you, but there is part of the journey here where you need to go onto HMRC's website and sign up for Making Tax Digital. And as part of that sign up journey, you will enter there your business details. So if you've got a property business or a self-employment business, you will enter that onto the HMRC website. You'll put the business name, when it started, and the address, I think. And then that then flows, what you entered there then flows down via the interface to AbraTax. And you will see 4 quarters. The testing servers show a few more, but 5 here. You'll go to the quarter in question that you want to file for, file a return. And then you need the AbraTax bridging software template. So I'll just download this. This is our template. And you might actually recognize some of these fields from the self-employment form. So we've got the turnover, we've got consolidated expenses if you're eligible for them, and you've got the breakdowns. All stuff that you can do on the existing self-assessment, but we're now going to report it quarterly. I have copied that into our bookkeeping template. And all I'm going to do now is create a link to the quarter that we're filing for. So I've taken quarter 3, and we'll go into consolidated expenses because we are below the VAT threshold here. We are eligible. And then we've got some instructions over here. There's a couple of ways you can do this, of course, but we put some instructions for the way that we find most effective for people. We're going to create a new workbook now, create a copy. And that's created this one over here. And then we're just going to go to File, Save As, CSV, and we might call it the record. So we're doing Q3.
Do remember, if you've got questions about AbraTax, feel free to put those in the chat as well, and Tom can answer that.
And that has
And it's done.
That is uploaded, and then we'll just click check the numbers look okay, and then submit.
So that didn't take very long.
No, and it means
you know what you're doing, but you know.
Yeah, I think there might be some friction when, as you can imagine with any new process, you've got to get set up. But I think what we find with our VAT customers is that once they're set up, they just get so used to doing it this is all stored away now, ready to go. And every quarter, you just come in here, download the CS, update the link and your records, and then just submit. And that shouldn't take very long.
So good. So if you are doing your own tax, you don't have an agent, an accountant or whatever doing it for you, you can use some of this bridging software. So you can use the software that you normally use and then just bring this bridging software in and a few minutes later, job done.
That's it.
Once a quarter. Well, that's great. Thank you, Tom. I'm just going to go back to some of the questions because we've got yet more. Sharon. Sharon says, I'm a graphic designer and may wish to average my income. Will I still have to do tax digital? Oh, hang on a sec. Did I read that properly?
Yeah, that makes sense. So averaging, we're still building averaging, and people who wish to use averaging, such as graphics designers or farmers sometimes, they will not be coming into Making Tax Digital until April 2027. But it's not about whether they're averaging, it's about their total income from self-employment and property. So as a graphic designer, if she is earning more than £30,000, then she will be coming into Making Tax Digital in April 2027.
Oh, well, that's good to know. Now, Augusta says, would we have to purchase software to scan receipts ourselves, or will we be able to still give receipts to an accountant and they can enter it into their software?
So that's a discussion you would have to have with your agent. Accountants, of course, they can do everything in regards to Making Tax Digital, but there will be an additional cost, I am sure. It could be that they might suggest that you use a bookkeeper if you want a bookkeeper to complete and update your digital records. Bookkeepers can also submit the quarterly updates. That's a change that we've put in. The professional bodies, not just the bookkeepers, but the accountants as well, were keen that we enabled more than one agent to act on behalf of a taxpayer. This is the only tax regime that we allow more than one agent to act on behalf of a taxpayer. So it could be that if I'm self-employed, my accountant either doesn't want to do the digital records, which does happen, or will charge me a lot. A bookkeeper traditionally is less expensive than an accountant, but is perfectly capable and qualified to do your digital records and to submit your quarterly updates. They will also provide the accountant with the relevant information so that they can begin to work on your tax return. So that's an option to consider as well. But certainly, if you have an accountant or a bookkeeper, have the conversation and be clear who is going to do what. And also, not because I'm Scottish, but how much is it going to cost?
Well, exactly, because you did mention off air, Lenny, that you've heard some accountants say that they're just going to charge 4 times the amount that they normally charge, excuse me, to do this, which is just crazy because, as we've seen with Tom's example, the quarterly reporting is frankly, not much at all. You're uploading it, there you go.
Well, the actual submission isn't very difficult. The key to that though is having the digital records. So if a self-employed plumber is VAT registered, he already does Making Tax Digital for VAT. He already has the digital records. He already submits his VAT quarterly. So this isn't a change for him. He'll get used to that very, very quickly. But if you're not used to having digital records, it can be a big change and it can be quite time consuming. A trader could do it themselves. Landlords, it's a sweeping statement, but the income for a landlord is usually the same every month, 11 months of the year, and it is expenses as and when they happen. So I have to replace a door, I have to replace a boiler, then that expense would then go into your digital records there and then. So I guess, I fully accept that I'm biased because I work in this day to day. It's not that difficult. I promise you, it's not as difficult as some people may have heard it is, because it's not. It is relatively straightforward, but it's a habit, it's a change of culture, a change of doing things. People don't like change. I understand that. But once we people will get into the swing of it, it'll actually be a lot easier, we believe, and a lot simpler to do your tax return, and things will make it a lot quicker to do as well.
Now we've got a question from John, who says he's got part-time employment, he's part-time self-employment, and some rental property. And he says, "Am I right in thinking that it's just the self-employment and rental income count towards the making tax digital?" Yes, absolutely, John. That you've got that right. Even I can answer that. Quite impressed with myself. I've been listening to Lenny for so many times. I think, oh, I actually know some things now. That's, good for me. Sharon says, if you have several small income streams, do you need to fill in a separate self-assessment, or can all income go on the same SA? Oh, self-assessment.
Self-assessment, yeah.
Yeah.
So let me do it in two stages. So if you're a landlord, it doesn't matter if you have one property, five properties, 50 properties. You have a UK property business. So all of your properties would go into that one business, and you would report on that one business. So you wouldn't be reporting your income and your expenses by property, but it's the amalgamation of the total for your property business. If you have foreign property, if you have property overseas, that's a separate business. So if you have property in France that you let out, then that would have to be reported separately, in addition to UK property. If you've got property in more than one European country, we would recommend that you keep the records separate by country, just to help you should you have any tax issues to deal with in that particular country. But you would report all your foreign property in your one foreign property business to HMRC.
Oh, yes.
If you are self-employed and you have multiple self-employments, then a lot would depend on what you are doing now. So if I was a self-employed electrician, that's
Mhm.
clearly one particular trade. If I qualify to become a gas engineer, then because of the different qualifications, that would be two separate trades. So you would be reporting it twice. You'd report for being an electrician, and you'd report for being a gas engineer. That's what you do now in your self-assessment tax return.
Mm,
So the
mm,
complication of the digital records, it's fairly easy to keep them separate because it's separate businesses, and you would just send the quarterly updates by business and then do your tax return, and then it all gets put together. If you are, let me blow. If you are, if you're an actor, if you are very famous and you're working on Coronation Street every week, then you'll be just having that one job. But the vast majority of actors, don't have permanent jobs. So they will do, I don't know, they'll do something in the local theatre, they'll go on tour with a rep company, they'll do pantomime, they'll do whatever. So it's not a full-time job, but they're actors. That's their core activity. So when they're resting, when they're not working as an actor, they could be working in Tesco.
mm.
So in Tesco, they would be PAYE, so that income wouldn't count as qualifying income because it's not self-employment. They may be they may be proofreading as a part-time job.
Yeah.
Now, if they are employed, that's PAYE. If they're not employed, then it'll be self-employment. But it's a case of, what are they doing now? So if just now, Lenny Barry, actor, does some proofreading, does some directing, does some speech giving, some coaching, and I am currently putting in my tax return for Lenny Barry, not quite limited, but Lenny Barry person,
Yeah.
and you're declaring all your income. That's absolutely fine. That's the top and bottom of it. You're declaring all the income. So at the moment, if you're not breaking it down, there is no need to break it down in Making Tax Digital.
Oh, that's great. So now Jane says, what about pensions? Do they qualify?
Pensions are not qualifying income, so we will not consider pension income when we are looking at the threshold and whether you've reached the threshold or not. But you do have to account for your pension income in your tax return as usual.
Now, Alexander says, I've seen the list, but it doesn't sort them into types or what each software package can do. So everybody faced with logging into 40 programs to find one that suits them. There needs to be a table or similar to supplement this to, and he wants to know, is there going to be something like that to help them make a choice? I'll bring Tom in as well, but Lenny, what do you think here?
So the software choices page does allow you to filter, and it will say, what do you want it to do? So you might say, I want it to do self-employment because I'm only self-employed.
Mm.
And it will list all those that deal with self-employment. But you might want to then filter it further and say, I want it to do my tax return. I want it to do quarterly updates. I want it to do digital record keeping, whatever it is that you want it to do. And it will keep filtering on the criteria that you give it. And then it will present you with the available options. Now, there is a little slight fly in the ointment just now, because if you ask, some people do this, they go in and say, I want everything. Then at the moment, some software is coming back saying, we don't have a product that does that. Now, that is true on the basis that the software developers, many of the software developers, are writing the end of year process for the tax return. Now, that tax return is not going to be required for some considerable time yet. So you're coming into Making Tax Digital for the 26-27 tax year. That tax return will have to be submitted by the 31st of January 2028. So understandably, the software developers and us, to be honest, we're doing exactly the same. We need to get the things in now that need to be done in year before we get to finalizing the end of year. So I think we're actually updating the software choices page to say that based on what the software developer is telling us that they're going to have X, Y, and Z, then we're going to show that. And I think that's actually gone live. So they will tell you, yeah, end of year is not ready yet, but it will be. And that hopefully gives you a better choice to make.
Yeah, Tom, you must be at that stage. You've got some of it ready, but not all of it.
Yeah, so we're focusing on the quarterly submission part. Like Lenny says, that HMRC are asking software vendors what's their intention. So you can state what types of income you will be supporting when the time comes. And of course, like Lenny says, that time's quite a long way away. It's going to be April 2027 before it's the end of the year, tax year. And then, of course, you've got the deadline, which most people will leave it until, which is the January 2028. So the challenge we've got is that that's a long way away and things can change. And we know with the MTD, from a commercial point of view, the MTD timelines have changed a few times and the scope has changed.
Yeah.
So there's an incentive for all of the software vendors to leave it until there's some clarity on what's going to actually come out. Some of that functionality is still in research and development for us as well. So I think, then you might know this, but there's a form SA 302, which most mortgage providers need to see.
Yeah.
That one is currently going through, from what I can tell from the docs on our side, it looks like it's still in the research phases, user research phases. So we can't yet build some of the features at the moment. And I think, that's the problem a lot of software vendors have, is that they are having to wait for some clarity on, and wait for the APIs to become available. So in response to the question, I would say, I mean, look, for us, I mean, we are building in a very collaborative way. So we want to get feedback from users. And, I can tell you that our intention is to support all the income types. We're aiming to get that done by April for what's available from HMRC. And if you've got features or any kind of feedback that you think we should take on board, then write to me directly. We do take it all very seriously, and we've done that with our other products, and we've baked it in. So I would experiment, trial with different products, and talk to us directly, because we'll build you. We want to build what you need. So that's what I would say.
And anybody who's signed up to this webinar will get an email from us afterwards, which will have a link to information on AbraTax. You'll get some links there. And if you're watching this on YouTube, there will be a link below, so you can go and have a look at AbraTax and sign up for free. And yeah, give them some feedback if you're able to. That's great. Now we've got Frederick says, what about retirement income? I'm guessing, Lenny, it depends where the income's coming from. So if it's pensions, no. But if you've got a property that you're getting rental income from, then yes, potentially.
Yeah, so pensions don't count as qualifying income. If your pension is the rental income from a property that you've bought, then that would count towards your qualifying income for MTD. If you reach one of the thresholds, 50,000, 30,000, 20,000, then yes, you will be required to use Making Tax Digital.
Great. Now, similar sort of question here from Killen. You mentioned PAYE won't be included, but what if I have PAYE as well as rental income? If the rental income over 50K, then I need to do MTD. Also, is rent coming in, or rental profit needs to be over 50K? So is it the gross, or is it the net that needs to be 50K?
So all qualifying income, be it self-employment or property, is gross income. So it's turnover, not profit. And it's a case of, if someone has a PAYE job, that's absolutely fine. We don't count PAYE because it's dealt with through PAYE. If you have rental income, or you've got a part-time self-employed job, those incomes are combined together to assess against the threshold. If you're above the threshold, then you will come into MTD. So in 26, it's 50,000, 27, it's 30,000, 28, it is 20,000.
Gosh. So I have an interesting question from Bill. He says, I'm in partnership with my wife, both in a trading business and as a landlord. We are 50-50 for both. So is it our joint income that counts, or towards the threshold, or is it our respective 50% shares?
So Bill and his wife are both individual taxpayers. So it's the individual taxpayer. So in the way of property, if it's joint property, it's your share of the income and expenses that you need to be reporting on. If you are in a partnership now, and I would need to be clear that it's a legal partnership. If you're in a legal partnership, then currently you would not come into MTD because we're still building it. It will come soon. Lots of people, for example, a husband and wife could have a joint property, and they are in partnership for that 50-50, but it's not a legal partnership. There are a different set of criteria, a different set of requirements for partnerships. So if you are filling in a partnership return and your individual partner returns, then that would be a legal partnership. If you're both just filling in your self-assessment, whilst it's a partnership, I understand that, it wouldn't be a legal partnership. So you would be coming into Making Tax Digital at the moment.
So Rebecca, sorry, carry on.
The implication there is that both parties would need to make the submissions, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a joy.
If they meet the threshold. So it could be that Bill, I don't know, could be a self-employed plumber. So his self-employment income will count along with his 50% of the rental income. That might take him above 50,000, say, but his wife may not be self-employed and her share of the rental income will be below the 50,000. So she wouldn't be coming in 26. She might come in 27 or 28. It depends on the rental income.
Now, Rebecca says, I meet the rental income levels for MTD. Will I need to report my interest, dividends, and CGT calculations on a quarterly basis too, or just at the end of the year?
No, I know that HMRC have a bad reputation, but we're not that bad, surely. So no, you would not be required to do your other income on a quarterly basis. That is just now an annual activity in your tax return, and that will continue to be the case under MTD. It'll be an annual activity in your tax return done through your MTD software.
Thank you. Now, Alan says, what is the 50K based on? And how do you know if you meet that threshold? Is it based on last year's earnings? Good point for self-employed people. It often goes up and down, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it is based on the 24-25 tax year. So the tax returns that you might be filling in now, that's the defining tax return, 24-25, due 31st of January 2026. There was 5 million tax returns still to be done at the start of January. So there's a lot of them going in. If that tax return says I have earned from property and from self-employment more than £50,000, you will be required to use Making Tax Digital from April 2026. Now, we will write to taxpayers who are required to come into Making Tax Digital. If you've submitted your tax return by the 31st of August and it's above £50,000 for property and for self-employment, then we'll have already written to you in November. If you haven't submitted your tax return by the 31st of August, it'll be coming in by the 31st of January, hopefully. And then we will assess it, and then we will write to confirm that you will be legally required to use Making Tax Digital from April 2026.
Tom, of the questions that I've gone through, are there any that you'd like to make another comment on? Because I know I haven't come to you quite enough.
No, I don't think so. I think what we find is that overwhelmingly people, are not looking forward to the changes.
No.
I
Yeah.
think, and I think what I would say is that I think it could help you. I mean,
Yeah.
it will help get your business affairs in order throughout the year. It can. I think the economics do stack up when you think it actually it forces you to keep things order and you keep time. Our software also gives you a live tax calculation as well, so there's no more guessing as to how much tax you're going to be
Yeah.
end up owing. So
Yeah.
you can come into the platform at any point and you can see an estimate of how much tax and national insurance contributions you're likely to end up paying.
That is helpful. I have to say, because I have 3 companies, 2 of them have VAT on them, and that does mean that you have to do your accounts every quarter. And although you think, no, good stupid accounts, it does mean that by the end of the year, you've basically done it. And you've pointed this out, Lenny, that it, in the long term, we will thank you for it. I'm not sure if we will, but you have said that to me.
Yeah, it's a faff. I understand that, and people don't like change. I understand that as well, but we're not doing it to be obstructive. We genuinely believe that this will be helpful for many small businesses, self-employed landlords. The key to Making Tax Digital isn't about the software, isn't about the technology. It's about the digital records. Now, I speak to many taxpayers, and many of them say, "Oh, I'm a white van man. I'm an electrician. I go to the garage, I fill up with diesel, I come back, I throw the receipt on the seat beside me, and I drive off. And then I open the door, and the wind blows the receipt out, and
Yeah.
you go, oh, golly gosh!" But if you are going to the same garage, if you're spending £50 on fuel every week, that will be in your bank records and that will help you. So the paper receipt going out the window is less relevant because it's in your bank records. You'll be able to construct your records, your digital records from your bank account. And that makes it a lot easier for people instead of hunting, hunting for things, looking down the back of the sofa in the back of the van, trying to find receipts and invoices they haven't got. And that's partly what holds up the tax returns being submitted. January is absolute madness. We're very
Yeah.
busy, but we're nowhere near as busy as the accountants and bookkeepers who are trying to get things sorted and get submitted on time. It's the missing information that really causes the
Yeah.
problem. So with digital record keeping backed up through your bank records, it makes life a lot easier. So it's not the number one objective for MTD, but if that helps reduce the volume of work that has to be done by accountants and bookkeepers and our call center staff in January, that can only be a good thing for everyone. Now, digital records, some people only have one bank account and the shopping goes into that bank account. If it's an electrician, he goes to Edmondson Electricals or he goes to B&Q, he buys stock, he buys tools for his job. It's all in the one bank account. Now, if you're a limited company, you have to have a business bank account by law. You don't have to have it as a sole trader. However, you could have two separate personal accounts and use one for your business activity and use one for your family stuff. And that would make life easier for the trader, also makes it a lot easier for their accountant or bookkeeper. So that's one little trick of the trade that people could think about. And just whilst I mentioned limited company, I saw a question in the chat about limited companies. Limited companies are not in scope for making tax digital. So if you're a limited company, you will not be using MTD. We did plan to bring MTD to corporation tax, but we've already announced that we're not going to do it. And that's partly because we need to wait and see what the changes are if we bring in e-invoicing to limited companies. Now, some people say, oh, limited company don't have to do MTD. I'm going to become a limited company. Now, I would say if being a limited company is the right thing for your business, you carry on and do that. However, if you're just doing it to avoid doing MTD, I really can't see the value of doing that because the level of record keeping, the level of compliance in corporation tax is significant as well. And to be honest, if you have an accountant, ask the accountant in pure terms, if I'm sole trader earning 50,000, what tax would I pay? And if I was a limited company, 50,000, what tax would I pay? One of them is more than the other.
Yes. So I'll just keep this going for a little bit longer than the hour. Give us an extra 5 minutes because there are so many questions. John wants to know, will HMRC automatically notify us if we need to sign up? And what happens if you don't know until the end of the year, under the tax year, how much self-employment income you're on? So whether you have actually gone over the 50K, but it's not based on this year, is it, Lenny?
No. So again, we might have a bad reputation, but we're not going to ask traders going over the 50,000 in year to recognize they've gone over 50,000 and then retrospectively go back to April and create digital records. If you go over the threshold, congratulations. Your income has gone up, your business is booming, absolutely fantastic. And that means you will come into Making Tax Digital the year after you tell us that in your tax return.
KS says, if you have to do this every quarter, what are the deadlines for submission each quarter?
Good question. So VAT is tax year agnostic, so it operates in its own little world. The tax year is the 6th of April to the 5th of April. Don't ask me why. It's not overly convenient. I understand that. So to begin with, income tax has to work around the tax year. So the 6th of April to the 5th of July is the first quarter, and it is due by the 7th of August. So it would be the 7th of August, it would be the 7th of November, it would be the 7th of February, it would be the 7th of May.
Great.
However, we recognize that many businesses, many people operate outside of the tax year because it's not convenient. So we will offer a calendar quarter basis. So in your MTD compatible software, there will be an option to say, I want to go to calendar quarters. If you choose that, you have to choose it before you submit your first quarterly update. Otherwise, you're stuck with it for another year. But that would then make your quarter the 1st of April to the 30th of June, but still due on or before the 7th of August. Many people will find that a lot easier. Please make sure you remember to make that choice in your software.
Interesting. Speaking of software, Pale says, why did HMRC get outside software companies to create the bridging software? Why not create their own thing? Just makes it more confusing.
So HMRC software development is not our core business. We do not have the skills, knowledge, and expertise, nor will we have those skills, knowledge, and expertise to be able to update it every year or when something changes. So software changes when there is a change. So the budget is very important to software developers. There's lots of things gets announced in a budget in the autumn that they have to have ready for April 2026. And I'll be perfectly honest, we would not have the resources to be able to provide the level of service, customer service, in relation to that software. It simply would overwhelm us. Software companies are far better placed to be able to provide that service and to provide that customer service because that's part of their core business.
That's a good
And
point,
also,
Tom. You and I have talked about this, haven't we?
yeah, I think also that it's a good thing to create markets as well and help economic growth. I think there's some benefit there, but also there are lots of different user needs. So, and I think that's reflected in the software choices. You know, there are a variety of software with different features, which if you open that up to private markets, they can produce that very effectively, as opposed to a single organization trying to cater to a lot of different types of people.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to do a final one, which is from Rebecca. No, sorry, Janet. She says, I'm a pensioner in receipt of state and occupational pension. I have a small private counselling service practice and registered as a sole trader. Will MTD affect my practice? Potentially, if it earns enough, I assume.
That's absolutely correct, Jasmine. You're becoming an expert.
Yeah, go
If
me.
if Janet's practice has income from self-employment above the threshold, be that 20,000, 30,000, or 50,000, then she will come into Making Tax Digital because of that income. Pensions don't count as qualifying income. We don't take them into consideration when we are looking at the threshold.
Well, thank you so much, Lenny Barry from HMRC, Nick Verhosi in the background from HMRC, answering lots of questions. Thank you very much, everybody, for your questions, by the way. Fantastic questions. Thank you, Tom Bateman from AbraTax. Thank you very much. And as I said at the beginning, we will be sending information to everybody who signed up for this webinar afterwards. It will have links to AbraTax. And if you've got more questions, you can ask Tom actually directly through AbraTax because he's become quite an expert himself, you know, working on this for quite
Feel
some
free.
time.
Yeah.
And if you are watching this on YouTube, do put questions in the comments. We do read all the questions and comments, and we do answer back. And I'll get Tom and maybe even Lenny, if he's free, or Nick to answer some of your questions. So feel free to do that there. And if you are watching on YouTube, remember to subscribe, comment, like, tell all your friends because you know you want to. And if you're not, if you are just coming on our webinar live, thank you for being here. Thank you for your questions. Do have a look at what we've got on moneymagpie.com about taxation. We have quite a lot about tax. we will be having quite a lot, particularly with help from HMRC and AbraTax, about making tax digital, MTD. Do join our newsletters. We have an investing newsletter every other Saturday. We have a weekly Tuesday newsletter, which has all sorts of fun things about saving and investing and making money as well. So take a look there. I've been Jasmine Birtles, founder of MoneyMagpie.com. You've been fantastic. Thank you very much.